What are, in my opinion, the pros and cons of working in management consulting? Hi everyone, my name is Johannes and welcome to this channel. Welcome to Mastering Consulting. On this channel I share my own learnings and experience from my own current journey in management consulting to help you to become successful in consulting and also live a balanced life. And if you're new to this channel, then please make sure to subscribe to it. Also, please leave a thumb up. This will help you that you don't miss any new video here coming out. And today we have a very interesting topic. We will talk about the pros and cons of working in management consulting. So before we start, let's maybe talk a little bit about what people think that consulting is like. And there's one group who says, okay, consulting is really great because you have all of these opportunities, you have a very fast career, you have very exciting tasks that you do, an exciting lifestyle. But there are also, on the other hand, people who say, come on, you have to work endless working hours and it's really a tough job, you get burned out very quickly. So I can tell you, after a couple of years, I realized that there are certainly some pros, but also on the other hand, some cons that I see of having a career in management consulting. And what I can tell you already is that some of those pros and cons might not be what you expect. So with that being said, let's start with the pros. So there are a couple of pros that I see of working in management consulting. So first of all, I would say that you have a very steep learning curve. Okay, so this means that you are faced with very exciting and challenging tasks on a daily basis. Okay, so you are forced to learn something new every single day, and this means that after, let's say, working for 3 years in consulting, you have certainly a much steeper learning curve and much more knowledge than if you would have in many other jobs, like working in corporates, for example. Another pro that I see is that you also build a strong network, and this is both the case for the client side but also within your own firm. So in consulting, you typically work on several projects throughout your career. So a typical project, I would say, lasts between 8 and 12 weeks or so. And this means that you meet many different people on many different positions. So you meet people from various industries with various backgrounds on various career levels. And this gives you obviously plenty of opportunity to build relationships with those people, and over the time to build really a very strong network. But it's the same within your company, okay? So you have probably very capable people working with you, working within your firm, working within your project team. And believe me, in management consulting, companies are typically known for, creating very strong bonds with each other, especially within your own peer group or on your project. And this is again also a great opportunity to build a strong network that has a lot of value for you in the long run. Another pro that I see is that you definitely learn much about management and business. So since you are typically working on top management business problems that you have to solve as a consulting team, you really learn how business works, but also how management works. Okay, so you are involved in major decisions for companies, maybe in some programs that have to increase profitability, that have to restructure the organization, that have to develop new business fields. And this is very exciting, and you really learn what it takes to run a business successfully. But also, if you take a look on the management side, you definitely learn how a management operates, how also management relationships work within a company. You will certainly also learn something about corporate politics. So I think this is really great. And after, I would say 1 or 2 or 3 years after working in consulting, you definitely gained a lot of knowledge how corporates actually work. Another pro is that you acquire very important hard and soft skills. So if you watch some of my previous videos, that you know that I'm all about consulting skills. and I also talked about necessary hard skills and soft skills. And if I talk about hard skills, I mean like, building models, for example, in Excel, or for example, building presentations in PowerPoint. And there is a certain, skill set that you need, or there's a certain art to it, because as you probably know, PowerPoint presentations done by consultants follow a very, a certain structure, a certain storyline. And this is definitely something that will help you throughout the entire career, because, learning how to work with PowerPoint, how to create great presentations, also how to solve problems or how to do analysis in Excel. This is something, that will help you through your entire career. But also, if we take a look at the soft skill side, then probably, communication is the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, as a consultant, you really learn how to communicate with various stakeholders, so with the top management, but also with the more operational people. So that's really something that you learn. But also maybe on the organization side, this is also something that cannot be undervalued if we talk about soft skills in consulting, because you have so many tasks to do, you have a very stressy day typically, and you really learn how to organize yourself. And also, those two skill sets, the hard skills and the soft skills, these are skills that really help you for your lifetime. And besides that, you have, of course, great exit opportunities. So this means after you worked a couple of years in consulting, then obviously, it's no problem at all to, find a new job. Very often you have the opportunity to join maybe a corporate in the middle management somewhere, or as a project manager, or you maybe go into a startup taking over a C-level or a senior executive position. Maybe you want to found your own startup, or you go to a private equity firm. There are so many different opportunities that you have. Especially if you have one of those very strong brands on your CV, then this is certainly an additional plus. But in general, no matter in what kind of consulting firm you work, this is always great and will always open you a lot of great exit opportunities. So that are some of the pros that I see. Of course, there are many more pros, but if I think about pros, those are certainly, or probably the most important ones that come to my mind. But let's also talk about the other side. Let's talk about the cons as well. And I think, the first con that many people also mention is that it's certainly difficult or it's challenging to maintain a healthy work-life balance. And the thing is not that it's impossible, okay? This is also what many people think, that, if you work in consulting, you always have those 80-hour work weeks, you don't see your friends anymore, and your health, totally gets out of balance. And after, a couple of years, it's certain that you get burned out. So it's not like that, I can promise you. But nevertheless, it's more challenging than in other jobs, because obviously you have, let's say in strategy consulting, something between 60 and 70 hours per week that you work. And of course, it makes it much more difficult, to keep up with your friends, to find time to do sports, and to take care of your relationship. Of course, that's challenging. But nevertheless, and I made a video about that, it's not impossible. It's just about organization and prioritizing and really focusing on quality instead of quantity, okay? This is what you have to do to maintain a work-life balance in management consulting. Nevertheless, we have to be honest, and we have to say it's more challenging in consulting than it is certainly in other jobs. Then another con that I want to talk about is that compared to investment banking, private equity, or a VC, or even your own startup, you have a more limited career upside. And what do I mean by that? So in consulting, you typically have some very hard work weeks. So as we said, between 60 and 70 hours in strategy consulting is what you should expect. Of course, there are weeks where you have to work a little bit more, but there are also weeks where you have to work a little bit less. Nevertheless, those hours are not that far away from, working hours in private equity, venture capital. I mean, investment banking is something different. There typically you work a little bit more. But nevertheless, the thing is that, after a couple of years in management consulting, maybe you become project manager, maybe you could become senior project manager. But if you don't become partner, your income is almost not scalable, okay? Of course, you have an above average income, and it's certainly well paid, but it's not that scalable because, it's not that variable. And this is a bit different in private equity firms, VC firms, and investment banking. There with the time, they also work a lot with in participation of the profits. And this obviously gives you a much higher upside. And compared to many people who work for a couple of years in consulting versus many people who work for a couple of years in private equity or venture capital, for example, then we have to be honest and we have to say that the income is much more scalable in the investment related jobs than in consulting, while the working hours are at least comparable. Okay, and that's what I would see as well. Then another point, and this is something that I learned only after 3 years, is that you will always be in the role of a service provider. So what do I mean by that? Of course, as a consultant, you work on, highly relevant topics, okay, on strategic topics, on top management issues. But nevertheless, you are always in the role of giving advice, okay? You do the analysis, then you do make a recommendation, and then it's up to the management to implement it or not. So, and this is, especially the case if you work in consulting for a longer time period, maybe if you become project manager. Then compared to other jobs in a corporate, for example, you never really experience how it works to build something up in a corporate over a couple of years. Because if I start in a corporate world, then typically if I am a middle manager, I build something over a couple of years, okay? And this requires completely different skills than it is required in management consulting, where you only are focused on providing a great recommendation within a very short time period, okay? And you never will have the power that the real management has of making business decisions. You will be always in the role of being a service provider and making recommendations, okay? So this could be another con that I see. And then the last one, and this is certainly something that you wouldn't expect here, but this is something that I realized over the past years. So you're partly working in the old economy. And what do I mean by that? So especially if I talk to my friends who are working in venture capital, for example, those are typically, or in the startup world, these people are typically working, so to say, on the edge technology. So this means that they really, work on the recent problems that are out there. They work with high tech. They work really, at the interface of technology and business. And this is typically very exciting. In consulting, it's a little bit different. So very often your clients are companies from the old economy. And with those clients, in only very, very few cases, you can work with them on really top-notch topics, okay? Most of the companies are somewhere in the middle and they have different problems than keeping up with the recent technology trends. Typically, they want to increase profitability and they want to, enter new markets. They want to reduce costs, for example. And this really, is something, or these projects really don't have a lot to do with, cutting edge technology, for example. And this is, especially after a couple of years, is certainly the case. And this is also a con that I would see, so that you're partly working in the old economy. So, of course, I'm interested what pros and cons you see if we talk about a career in management consulting. So please let me know and write it down in the comments. And if you liked it, if this brought value to you, then please leave a thumb up. Also, please subscribe to this channel. And with that being said, I wish you a very successful day. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.